successful hunt may be one of the most exciting moments of a person's life. However, there are some things to consider before taking that first step out into the woods. Without mastering each and every single one of them, what could potentially be a great day may turn sideways very quickly. Hey, I'm PK Outdoors, and today I'm going to be going over the top 5 things that you should consider before going hunting. This will ensure you'll come home legal, safe, and with a story. Let's get started. Number 1, legality. This one is non-negotiable. You need to have the right license, right tags, and need to know which season is open for the species you are hunting. Rules and regulations may change every year, so always be sure to know the updated laws for the area you are hunting, whether that be through a provided paper copy, or you can always check online for an electronic copy of the rules, regulations, laws, seasons, and bag limits. This segment is especially important if you are an out-of-state or non-resident hunter, because the rules and regulations of one state may not coincide with the rules and regulations of another state. For example, a hunting season in Nebraska may not be the same as a hunting season down in Texas. In addition to hunting in different states, even the counties within a state may have different rules and regulations. For example, in Pennsylvania, a 3-up rule is required in the western part of the state, but not so much in the rest of the state. So the key thing to take away from this is no matter where you're hunting or what you're hunting for, you should always know the laws for that area and the species for which you are pursuing. Number 2 is safety. Always make sure that you know your gear, your competence, and your plan. Whether you're hunting with a bow or a rifle, doesn't matter your weapon of choice, but always be comfortable with it in the practice and in the field. Before every hunt, make sure to inspect all of your equipment to make sure that it is in good working order. Just a disclaimer to this segment, the mag is empty, bolt open, nothing in there, safety's on, and this is a dead, not live firearm. The 3 easiest safety checks that every rifle hunter should know is muzzle discipline, trigger discipline, and knowing what is beyond your target. Number 1, muzzle discipline. Never point the muzzle of your firearm at anything that you are not willing to destroy. Number 2, trigger discipline. Always keep your booger finger off the bang switch unless you're ready to fire. Lastly, it's important to know for a fact what your target is and what is beyond your target. In other words, don't shoot through brush that you can't see what's beyond your target, or if you don't have a clear sight picture of the animal or target that you're trying to hit. Some other safety checks that you can do non-related to the gear is bring along a first aid kit. You can have injuries out in the field, whether that be getting a little cut or scrape from a branch, or if you end up cutting yourself, or hopefully not have a more severe hunting incident. It's always nice to have a first aid kit with bandages, gauze, antiseptic, whatever you think you may need out in the field. My last bit of advice for this segment is to always tell someone where you're going to be and when you plan on returning from said location. Always check the area beforehand to make sure you have cell service, and also bring a charged cell phone. I've been guilty of that a few times. But in addition to that, if you're hunting more remote locations, then bring a little satellite communicator such as a Garmin InReach Mini 2. Finally, don't hunt beyond your skill level. Don't take shots at ranges you haven't practiced, and always be comfortable with your gear. Number 3, scouting and permission. If you take time to actually figure out where the game you are pursuing is going to be, then you will have exponentially better odds in actually harvesting said game. So whether that be through Google Maps, OnX, trail cameras, or even just talking to the locals, figuring out where your game's going to be and actually getting boots on the ground can be the most valuable part before any hunt. The better you know the land that you're hunting, the more chance of success. The main aspects that any game species looks for is food, water, cover, shelter, and also travel corridors. When you ultimately decide to go boots on the ground while scouting, try to mix it up a little bit about the time and date that you're actually going out into the woods. Game animals move differently depending on a variety of factors, such as wind, weather, precipitation. Even barometric pressure can change how a deer will move from one day to the next. All in all, the more informed you are, the higher likelihood that you'll have a successful hunt. Just as a little caveat, if you hunt private land and you are not the landowner, always remember to get not only verbal permission but written permission, and be sure you are aware of the boundaries of that property. It's important to remember that the clothing you wear and the gear you bring can ultimately make or break a hunt. This can be applied to both sides of the spectrum because overheating and hypothermia can quickly end a hunt and potentially be very dangerous. My rule of thumb is to always dress in layers. If you're hunting super cold weather in the late season, it's important to have a merino wool base layer or some kind of insulative thermal, which is then followed up by one or several mid-weight mid layers. Those mid layers are where most of your actual insulation are going to be housed. And then lastly, it's also important to have a windproof or fully weatherproof outer shell that'll keep all the elements outside and not in close to your body. The same can be said for pants, some nice bottoms or thermals, and then followed up by a lighter weight base and mid layer. And then lastly, you have your outer shell that could come in the form of insulated bibs as well. Ultimately, the camo pattern that you decide to go with doesn't matter too much in the grand scheme of things, because the grandfathers and the great-grandfathers were killing a 170-inch buck out back behind the woodshed in their bright red wool outer garments. So it's always important to remember, whether you're wearing top-of-the-line premium gear or just pick up a pair of pants from Walmart, it does not matter too much as long as it'll keep you out in the woods as comfortable as possible and as long as possible. If you would like a more in-depth breakdown of the gear that you should or should not take, as well as the clothing, I will link a video to the Hunting Public. They published a very informative video on this topic. And for the fifth and final step of this 5-step process is going to be ethics and field dressing. This is the part where responsibility meets skill. If you do not feel comfortable with the shot you are about to take or are presented with, then it's your responsibility as an ethical hunter not to take it in the best interest for both yourself and the animal. It is also your responsibility as a hunter to make shots that are ethical and ensure a quick and humane kill. Let's say an animal presents itself to you and you make a pretty good shot, but it still happens to run 60, 70 yards away from your stand. This little 5-step sub-process is what I personally use and has most of the time, if not all the time, guaranteed a quick recovery. The 5 steps are tell, track, tag, cut, and then lastly, drag. Number 1, tell. It's important to let someone know that you did make a shot on an animal, so then potentially they can come out and assist you with the recovery. Just that little heads up, you can also provide an estimated time of when you may return from the woods to your camp. So overall, this rule is pretty oriented just towards safety, but at the end of the day, communication is key. Next up is track. This one is fairly simple, but can have some caveats. Especially if you're a bow hunter, if you make a shot and you think it's perfect, you hit a nice double lung, give the deer, even if you saw it fall, give it about 20 minutes to 30 minutes just to make sure that it expires peacefully and as quickly as possible, because you don't really want to jump a deer that may seem like it's passed and then you have to go chase it another 300 yards. Also be aware this chart is very useful in determining the time differentials of the shot you made and the time that you should go or let elapse before you head out and try to track that animal. Next up is tags, so be sure you have the proper tags for that animal and then affix them properly according to your local rules and regulations. Number 4 is cut. This is where you will actually be field dressing the animal if you choose to do so. Some people may just take it on back to the camp and dress it there. But here, just be careful of slips, trips, falls, cuts while you're maneuvering around in the woods. The same can be said for the tracking portion, because once you're up there in the deer's cavity, then blades flying around, you never know when you may accidentally cut yourself. And this is where that field first aid kit comes in handy from earlier in the video. Then lastly, pretty self-explanatory, drag. This is when you very carefully but efficiently move the animal from the kill site over to where you will have it kind of transported, whether that be back to your camp, back to your house, or to a proper processor. All in all, this 5th and final section just reinforces the fact that please be an ethical and responsible hunter. Always make sure to have a plan before heading out into the woods. Communicate where you're going to be with whoever is involved. And then always stay safe, because you never know when something may go awry. All in all, be safe, ethical, and responsible hunters. So there you have it, the top 5 things to consider before you go out hunting. Legalities, safety and skill, scouting and access, gear and clothing, then lastly, recovery and ethics. If you enjoyed this more informational style video, please let me know down in the comments. Also let me know what you would have added, what you would have subtracted, or any other general comment that could help people out if they are first-time hunters or even veterans that could use a brush up. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.